Hey, shalom, shalom. Hold on, let me make sure I get. Let's see. I'll make sure I get my settings right here. Let's see. As a matter of fact, all right. Let's see. Let's see. There we go. Alright. Alright. That should do it. Alright. Alright. So here we go. Sorry about that. Had to make sure everything was okay on my settings. First and foremost, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Yahweh Bash Yahweh Shai, Bash Shemrakar Kudash. Double honors once again go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who deserve double honors. Salutations also go out to the fellow Akim that are out there on the highways and the byways across the four corners of this earth, pushing the truth. Alright, while we're still trying to wake up the remaining hopeful elect. Alright, at the end of the day, all we can do is put it out there. It's up to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai to provide the increase. Alright, so here we go. We try to tell you, Jake, alright, all these things that, hold on here, that you think that you're going to get. Alright, these people, all they're doing, they become expert at making Jake play the waiting game, and for nothing. Like I said in a previous video, we're prisoners of hope in the wrong way, to the wrong people. Alright, but in this article here it says, they not like us. Reparations, reparative justice, and the racial wealth gap. Pay your debt. Alright, by Ashonda at large. Alright, a couple of days ago. So then you get this people like this, which you can't even get mad anymore. This, you know, this confused thing here. But this video goes in on the little dirty little tricks, the false promises, and you know, their strategy, and all the clues that they're giving you. Can you call them clues anymore? They're outright saying, fuck you niggers, we're not giving you a goddamn thing. You know, the recent Supreme Court rulings, this is them turning back the clock, and they're not shameful or bashful about it. You have to come to the grips, a lot of you, with the fact that this is the way it's always been. You've had this little because they were doing so well, and that's in, as a matter of fact, let me see if I can find it. Economics has always, you know, when it turns bad, it has always been, let me find out and collect my thoughts here. Let's see. I think they changed this over time, because it used to be you could go right to the section. Now we know that lynching, as it says here, is an extrajudicial killing by a group. It is most often used to characterize informal public executions by a mob in order to punish an alleged transgressor, punish a convicted transgressor, or intimidate people. It can also be an extreme form of informal group social control, and it is often conducted with the display of a public spectacle, often in the form of a hanging for maximum intimidation. Instances of lynchings and similar mob violence can be found in all societies. In the United States, let's see how far they're going to go with this. In the United States, where the word for lynching likely originated, lynchings of Jakes, Israelites, became frequent in the South during the period after the Reconstruction era, especially during the nadir of American race relations. Nadir, you have, as it relates to the sun, you have the high point, that's the zenith. The nadir is the lowest point. All right, you got like north, south. All right. So let's see if they're going to do it. The origin of the word lynch is obscure. The verb comes from the phrase lynch law. I'm trying to get straight to the point. Credited for coining. Two Americans during this era are generally credited for coining the phrase: Charles Lynch, 1736, 1796, and William Lynch, 1742, 1820, both of whom lived in Virginia in the 1780s. Charles Lynch is the one most likely to have coined the phrase, but blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's not what I was looking for. Let's see. Let's see. United States, here it is. Vigilantes. Let's see. I'm trying to get to the nonviolence rules as a means of enforcing white supremacy. Okay. After the American Civil War, secret white supremacist terrorist groups such as the Ku Klux Klan instigated extrajudicial assaults and killings due to a perceived loss of white power. What's going on now? Alright. Mobs usually allege crimes for which they lynched black people in order to instill fear. I'm not trying this whole, like, morphing into a whole new video than what I asked, but it's related. Trust me, you'll see. Let's see. The magnitude of the extra-legal violence which occurred during election campaigns to prevent blacks from voting reached epidemic proportions. The ideology behind lynching, directly connected to the denial of political and social equality, was stated forthrightly in 1900 by United States Senator Benjamin Tillman, who, that's that motherfucker, hold on, look at him, look like he only got one eye, piece of shit, and he's a Democrat, alright, who was previously governor of South Kakalaki. Alright. We of the South have never recognized the right of the Negro to govern white men, and we never will. We have never believed him to be the equal of the white man, and we will not submit to his gratifying his lust on our wives and daughters without lynching him. Members of the mobs that participated in lynchings often took photographs of what they had done to their victims. Souvenir taking, such as the taking pieces of rope, clothing, branches, and sometimes body parts, was not uncommon. And of course, we never got any hate crime bills or anything like that. Everybody else does. All right, and letting you know. But my point in bringing this up was in times that, such as what we're going through now, because our enemy has had the feeling of him doing far better than us, so we weren't really worth his time in fucking with us like they used to do. So what's happening now, alright, they're feeling it, and they're really feeling it. Now it's a problem. Alright, so now we're going to go back to where we were. Nope, I did not want that. Here we go. So let's roll this.
It's always pay your debts until the topic of reparations comes up. Have we reached such a privileged point in our society that we have to look into history in order to find things to fix rather than fixing problems that are right in front of us? The reason nobody talks about the debts of reparations is because the people who owe the debts are not alive. Now y'all don't want to say it, but I'll say it because whatever. I'm white, right? But guess
no,
what?
you're red.
I don't owe you anything. I never owed anyone. I don't owe you anything. And nobody will say it, but I don't. Nobody is responsible for the crimes of their ancestors. If that's the case, then every single one of us would owe every single one of us something, because throughout history, every single person, regardless of skin color.
And yet, that's what you do to us. Is it not? So we don't have the luxury of, being looked at it as separate. No, when one of us does something, all of us do. We're all held liable. So you can stop with that bullshit.
Has been owned.
Bingo. Let me remind
You got a simp like this.
We literally have opportunities here shouldn't focus on bettering the system. No, that's not what I'm saying, because I don't even try to go there. But if you're a black American and you're living in America and you're focused on giving black people reparations, you missed it. The boat is gone and you missed it. All the opportunities there. We do not need reparations. Well, we're owed it, you know, the acres and the mule. What you're talking about is Field Order 15 by General Sherman during the Civil War. And that was in like the southeast part of the country. A bunch of people want to talk about this as if, for one, the government actually did it, meaning Congress. No, it was a wartime order. Second off, it wasn't for all black people. The government does not owe us, and white people do not owe us. The government does not owe us. White people do not owe us. The vast majority of white people were not even slaveholders. You have every opportunity here to go build the life you want to build. Stop letting people tell you you don't have the opportunity. You do. And stop wanting people that never had anything to do with something to pay you for something they never did.
There are so many things that I could say about these two men and their understanding when it comes to the issue of reparations, the owing of debts, the issue of ancestors paying or descendants of those ancestors paying
that's not what the
for
scripture
debts
said.
that they did to our ancestors. There's so much that I could say to that. But you know, what I love to do is actually just bring things really current. I love to talk about the current climate because we understand that everything is a domino effect, right? So nothing just happens in a vacuum. It all happens because one thing impacts the other. So we're going to talk about the current situation concerning finances and clearly show that neither one of these men are educated. Neither one of them are. They're clearly confused, especially the Caucasian one. He's confused in more ways than one. But nevertheless, I digress. I want to share a couple of clips with you so you can understand where it is that I'm coming from concerning this whole racial wealth gap and the cause for reparations.
In 60 seconds, I'll prove to you that the racial wealth gap does not exist. See, the reason the white workers are wealthier is because they choose higher paying jobs like lawyer, doctor, engineer. But black people choose lower paying jobs like black lawyer, black doctor, black engineer. Wait a minute,
This is so clever. I like this.
Hey Siri, explain the racial wealth gap.
I found this on the web.
Okay, so before the Fair Housing Act became a thing in 1968, lenders could choose not to sell a home to a black person just because they were black. So when homes in the 1960s were selling for $12,000, guess who didn't get to buy those cheap family homes on government-subsidized loans? And most Americans accumulate generational wealth through home ownership, but because black families were denied that opportunity for decades, they were never able to catch up. So by 2020, those $12,000 homes had appreciated to more than $330,000, which explains the huge racial wealth gap. But as an immigrant from Uganda who came here with nothing and is now financially independent at 22, I share realistic ways to get smarter with your money, regardless of your race, age, or financial situation. So if that's something that interests you, hit the follow button. Anyway, I made some chapati. It's a pretty common bread in Uganda. Credit goes to my mom, though, for the secret family recipe.
Shout out to the Ugandan brother for doing what many Africans won't do, which is tell the truth about what happened to black people before they got here. I'm very glad to see that you was able to so succinctly put that information together concerning the Housing Act in which our forefathers, who are still very much alive, were discriminated against. Reparations is not just an issue of chattel slavery, within itself should be enough, but because the goalpost is continuously moved when it
And
comes
this is in large part due to, well, let me get it. We keep telling you, Jake, hey, and that's why I had thumbs up on the Ugandan Jake there. Hold on, because he did what most immigrants do not. Let's see, Jeremiah. All right, because nobody, again, these are scriptures. All right, this is Jeremiah 15 and 5. It says, "For who shall have pity upon thee, O Jerusalem?" Remember, we're not talking about the land here. We're talking about people. Jerusalem is a people before it is a place. All right. It says, "For who shall have pity upon thee, O Jerusalem? Or who shall bemoan thee? Or who shall go aside to ask how thou doest?" And there's a big fat resounding nobody, as you're going to see. That's the point of this video, because everybody's making all these excuses. All right. And yet they've done it for everybody. In fact, they've gone out of their way to do it for everybody else. So this is personal. All right. This is very much personal. Let's see. So we have Jeremiah 16:5. And this is ultimately the Most High behind this, as it says in Jeremiah 16:5. We're under these curses for a reason. All right. Let's see. Whoops. I don't understand what's going on here. Let's see. All right. This is Psalm 69:20. All right. It says, "Reproach hath broken my heart, and I am full of heaviness. And I looked for some to take pity, but there was none. And for comforters, but I found none." And that's just, in effect, this is what Jake is doing. The majority of you people out there thinking this devil that's over us is going to provide relief for you. He's not. He's going out of his way to say, fuck you. Back to the video. I got some more scriptures. Don't worry.
To white America when it comes to the colonialist mind, you have to say, hey, this is a domino effect. It did not just affect within the walls of chattel slavery, but it affected and impacted and still continues to impact us today.
Exactly.
When it comes to generational wealth. And I love how he said that, picking lower jobs like black doctor, black lawyer, black engineer. Exactly.
At this point, most of y'all have probably seen this going around social media, but I want to ask, how many of y'all know what the racial wealth gap is, and how many of y'all know what the causes of the racial wealth gap is? Hi, my name is Nina. I am an institutional equity trader and a certified financial planner professional, and this is something that is so near and dear to my heart. It's been so upsetting for me to see the discourse around why people believe that African Americans are at the bottom of the income ladder. Most of the conversation seems to be centered around character flaws of black people, and no one is talking about how there are inherent racial disparities that prevent black people from generating and preserving wealth in this country that have existed for years and continue to exist. In 2019, McKinsey did a study on the economic impact of closing the racial wealth gap. They actually determined that if the United States were to focus on closing the racial wealth gap, it actually would increase our GDP. They break down wealth generation and preservation into four main categories. First, starting off with community context, which can lift or depress family wealth, income, and savings. Family wealth affects family income and savings/ability to save. Aggregated family wealth helps contribute to and form community context. Family income affects disposable income available to save. Lastly, family savings affects a family's ability to save and transfer wealth for the next generation. Research into these categories are showing that for black people in this country, the quality of life is decreasing, while for white people in this country, the quality of life is improving.
That was true up until the pandemic. All right, and this is all by design. And now you're seeing, because ultimately the plan is for us to have no relief, because they're herding everyone into this digital currency system. All right, because hey, the dollar's crashing. It's all but done. All right. I mean, we're expecting shit to crash any day now, literally. All right. And then once it goes digital, there's really nothing that you can do now that will remain private. Any kind of resemblance of autonomy is out the window. It's over with. Again, by design. They want you to come to them for all things. No, we're supposed to go to the Most High for all things. That's part of our curses under these motherfuckers. But now they're changing shit up because, again, they know that their time is short. They see all the signs just as we see. The elites. Alright? Whether they're in the heavens or elsewhere. Alright? The prophecies are actually happening before people's faces, and the majority of the people just are completely unaware of what's going on. But that's their fault. All right.
Research into these categories are showing that for black people in this country, the quality of life is decreasing, while for white people in this country, the quality of life is improving.
Not anymore.
But guess what? I don't owe you anything.
Research into these categories are showing that for black people in this country, the quality of life is decreasing, while for white people in this country, the quality of life is improving. It will take black people 320 years to catch up and close the racial wealth gap. This is just the smallest amount of information that's included in this report.
Now you heard what she said. Again, this is being done on purpose. You gotta understand, you're talking about white supremacy. Alright, and all these colonial powers stick together. If you go back and look at all the wars and conflicts since these mother effers have been in power, all right, take Vietnam, prime example. In the last, plenty of people alive since then. What happened when the French kicked their ass? I mean, when the Vietnamese kicked the French's ass in '54, what happened? Well, you had the British, they were talking shit, and then ultimately you had the U.S. Well, we got to do something. All right, people unaware that this has been something that's been going on between those two, Indochina and France, since the 1880s. Before then, actually, but there's the incident that happened where they set up their puppet ruler, and you had two brothers. One that was the king, who was deposed by his brother, and his brother had to go on a run. They never forgot about that. That was like circa 1885, somewhere around there. And this is what Ho Chi Minh and all of them were pissed off about. The constant interference. Fast forward just recently, where you had in Niger and maybe a couple other so-called African countries that kicked them motherfuckers out, all right, because they were instigating shit behind the scenes. This is what they do. All right, let's go back to the video.
Please let me know if y'all are interested in a video where I go into more depth about everything that's included, because this information is mind-blowing and also heartbreaking. Like I told y'all, this work is personal to me, because when I look at this information, I don't just see statistics, but I see myself, and I see my family, and I see my childhood friends in it. So it's something that I am so very passionate about, and since I not only have a platform on this app, but I also have the expertise because I work in the finance industry, it is something that I'm going to continue to speak on, and I'm going to continue to use my voice to draw light to this.
And there's always these weak arguments when it comes to intellectualism, when it comes to education.
Oh, he's ready to bust their ass with this one.
The reason why it is that we collectively as a people are still on the bottom of the rung. But listen to Tim Wise as he explains how even that is false information.
In case you haven't catch that, it says Tim Wise, the machine, which is the system, was never meant to create equity. Bear that in mind as we go on here.
Information.
It was never intended to create equity so that black folks with college degrees,
This
regardless of subject matter, by the way, even when controlling for area of concentrated study or major or discipline, that black folks with college degrees are 80% more likely than white folks with degrees to be unemployed in any given year. Latinx folks with college degrees are about 50% more likely to be unemployed than white folks with a degree, even in the same field. Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders with a degree, about 20% more likely to be unemployed than comparable white folks. Indigenous folks with a degree, about 2/3 more likely to be unemployed than comparable white folks. So even when black and brown folks do all the same stuff, stay in class, get the same degree, they are still not having the same outcomes. We know right now that the typical white family in America with a high school dropout as the head of household actually has 25% more net worth than a black household headed by a college grad. Let me say that again because you will not hear it mentioned in the mainstream press.
Yep.
But it is true.
It's interesting to hear Tim Wise talk about this subject because I can tell you firsthand, and I'm sure many of you have the same story. Do me a favor and drop a comment below letting me know if you can relate to this story. But I used to work at Marriott at the front desk, and I had a coworker who was a supervisor.
Please, this is fucked up here.
And she was from Jamaica, but she had a hospitality degree from school, from university in Jamaica.
For you immigrants that always like to talk that shit.
And she was trying to apply so that she could become the assistant general manager, as the AGM that was there at the time, a white man by the name of Brendan, was getting ready to leave. But Brendan and the white general manager, Shelley, told her that her degree from Jamaica, from the university there, was not good enough, and it did not translate over into the United States. And so therefore she would have to go back to school in America, get a hospitality degree in an American school, and then she could apply for that position. Well, lo and behold, she did so, and within a few months, there was a little white girl by the name of Jessie who walked into the Marriott Hotel with nothing more than a high school diploma. And she made it very clear to us that she hadn't even gone to college. A high school diploma, and she readily took the position as assistant general manager from Brendan. And at the time, I was young, I was in my 20s, I didn't understand how all of this racial stuff was working as much because I grew up in a Caribbean household, even though I grew up in the States, and we didn't really address the issue of race as much. So I didn't understand what was happening right in front of my face, and seeing that exactly as Tim Wise said about the racial wealth gap and the education being a factor for black people and not for white people is so legitimate, that they can come into a job, into a company, receive the management position above a black worker, even if that person has more education than them, even a high school dropout.
Folks are talking about systemic racism and the generational wealth gap, and you're out here talking about like what you ate for dinner. Your teeny tiny story is meaningless in the grand scheme of things. And the grand scheme of things includes this comment section. Because white households with high school degrees have $151,651 more in wealth on average than black households with a college degree. Let's not forget this report from the Rand Corporation, which highlighted that the median black household in America has $24,000.
Why? Because it's a debt trap. That's all that shit is. That story that she just told about the young lady that came over from Jamaica and she was educated over there, and they told her that, well, your degree does not translate. You know, it's not going to help you here. You have to go to school here. In the meantime, a little Edomite girl comes in, slides right on into that position. It's all bullshit. But that's alright, they gonna pay.
In savings, investments, home equity, and other elements of wealth, while the median white household has around $189,000. And you could pause to read these first two paragraphs. I know you won't read it, but the rest of us who actually give a shit will.
A Chicago suburb is moving forward with a promise to pay reparations to its African-American residents for facing years of discrimination. Clearly, this is a very controversial issue. Evanston, Illinois set aside $10 million over the next 10 years for the Reparations Fund. There are a lot of critics who say this is just a government handout. Supporters say it's one step in the fight to address a history of wrong. They want to be a model for the rest of the country. And Nick is here with a closer look. Evanston is the first to do this, right?
They are indeed, Adrian, and it could be a test run for the entire country. Communities throughout the country are keeping a close eye on Evanston, Illinois. That's because the Chicago suburb is doing what they said they were going to do: pay reparations to black residents that dealt with discrimination decades ago, a move considered by many to be a test run for the entire country. $10 million over the next 10 years is the promise the Evanston, Illinois City Council made to its black residents back in 2019.
Of course, it's not the 40 acres and a mule, but it
it's a start. Evanston is the only municipality nationwide that is using a reparations fund to pay black residents who were discriminated against and faced a lack of access to housing. To qualify, individuals must have lived in the city between 1919 and 1969 and were at least 18 years old.
I'm exceedingly full of joy to see that there are people who are recognizing people of color.
It's a long process, but for those who were approved, they will receive $25,000. Of the 48 reparation recipients so far, some have decided to use that money for home improvements or mortgage assistance. As other cities like St. Paul, Minnesota and Amherst, Massachusetts look to start their own reparations committee, critics argue the reparations payments are simply government handouts.
I've been saying this since day one, that reparations is more than cash payments. And it's unfortunate that that has become a linchpin or a starting point for people who are against it. There's a myriad of other things to end reparations.
But in California, a decision to take up recommendations for reparations sits with the state legislature after a reparations task force delivered an 1,100-page report to lawmakers and Governor Gavin Newsom. Included in the document, recommendations for dozens of policy changes and payments of up to $1.2 million to those who are descendants of black slaves or those who had relatives that arrived before 1900.
The time has come. America must step up. It's not just the well-being of people of African ancestry that is on the line. It is the very heart and soul of this country. If America is...
Adrian and Mark, in each of these places where reparations are being considered, questions remain among them. Who will pay for it? And where will the money come from? As for the city of Evanston, they're funding their reparations program through marijuana and real estate transfer taxes. Back to you.
All right, Nick, thanks so much.
A few moments later.
A Chicago suburb is facing a lawsuit for paying out reparations to its black residents. Evanston, Illinois became the first municipality in the U.S. to launch a government-funded reparations program. But a conservative group has filed a class action lawsuit claiming the program discriminates against non-black residents. For more on this, let's bring in Emmanuel Felton. He's a race and ethnicity reporter for the Washington Post who has been covering this story.
And while he's telling you this, all I can think of is Esther, Book of Esther, Nehemiah, Psalms 83rd chapter. When it comes to us, for some reason, we know the reason. I'm just putting it out there like this. Now everybody got a problem. All right, and they're going to bring this up. That's all I'm going to say on it because I don't want to jump the gun. That's why I'm, playing the video. But listen to this.
Grounds for this lawsuit.
Yeah, so the conservative group Judicial Watch argues that this program discriminates against non-black residents of Evanston. So under Evanston's reparations program, if you lived in the city between 1919 and 1969, or you're the descendant of someone who did, and you're black, you qualify for reparations. Because the argument is, during those 50 years, Evanston instituted a bunch of racist, segregationist housing policies that deprived wealth from the black residents of town. So they're saying this is our effort to rebuild the wealth that we deprived from you. Whereas Judicial Watch says, you haven't proved exactly who was harmed by these policies. And so by opening it up to all black residents, you're discriminating against non-black residents. And this is really part of a larger wave of conservative challenges against programs that came up after George Floyd's murder, right? So we're seeing, with the last year's Supreme Court decision in the affirmative action case, that the courts are very weary of these programs that give benefits to certain ethnic groups. And that's sort of having a clash with all of these programs, both in the government and in private sector. Like, just recently this week, a program that was going to give black women in Georgia who were starting businesses grants was struck down by an appellate court. So there's sort of a clash here between, how do we fix our age-old problems of racial discrimination in a way that really satisfies a federal judiciary that's really only interested in a race-blind policy.
Do you think the city will fight this all the way? What are they vowing to do?
That's what they're saying. They refuse to comment for the story, citing pending litigation, but they're saying they vehemently support this program. and they're looking to fight it all the way up. And, you know, it's a program that they're very proud of. Evanston is very proud of being the first in the nation to institute something like this.
So even when certain cities in America try to do the least, I mean the absolute least, pennies, to show that they're sensitive to the plight of black Americans, there's always going to be a white supremacist conservative organization that says, no, I don't think so, we're going to use the very law that was supposed to be for you to come against you.
And this piece of shit that I'm getting ready to show you right here is behind a lot of that. This is Edward Blum. Alright? It says, few people have been more associated with rolling back modern-day civil rights laws than Edward Blum, the former stockbroker who has successfully challenged many affirmative action and voting rights laws. Blum has no formal legal training. He, in fact, refers to himself as an amateur litigator. Yet he was instrumental in engineering several legal cases that ultimately led to the June 29, 2023 U.S. Supreme Court decision that banned the use of race in college admissions. And ultimately this is what they're trying to do. Anything associated with race, they're flipping the script. Alright? So, it won't be long before the argument for reparations. Nope, that's about race. See what they're doing? Oh, man. But, see, Jake puts their faith and trust in fact, let me get this scripture. Alright, I just not thought of it because this is one of my favorites too. This is Psalms. You evidently do not know who you fucking with. I'll put it that way. This is Psalms 43 and 1. It says, judge me, O Most High, Yahweh, and plead my cause against an ungodly nation. O deliver me from the deceitful and unjust man. And all our people do for decades now is march up and down the street expecting something to, I don't know, what's the definition of crazy as it was said. Alright? Alright? And that's Jake, because you're depending on the wrong, and that's what we're out here for. But, you know what? You know, hard head makes a soft behind, as the saying goes. Alright, Jake just gonna have to feel that wrath, alright, from this devil, because he knows he's going down.
So that we don't have to pay out reparations. But you know, what's funny to me, when I heard that white guy talk about what they don't owe because of ancestors and yada yada this and that, what happens when it's very clear and apparent that they do owe?
What did I say about recent Supreme Court?
Let's find out.
Well, court rulings.
Another day America reminds you who they are and will let you down.
Yep.
The Oklahoma Supreme Court ruled 8-1 that the grievances filed by the survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre.
Listen now, didn't they just say that those that didn't live through such events that they're not owed anything? Okay.
To get just compensation and reparations does not fit within the public nuisance law of Oklahoma, and that there was no unjust enrichment. I talked about this earlier, how an Oklahoma lower court said that just because you're part of an historical event doesn't mean you are due reparations. This fight for reparations for the survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre has been going on for years. There used to be 3 survivors, now there's only 2, because one of them, Van Ellis, died at the age of 102 last year. And the remaining 2 are 109 and 110. And one of the survivors, Viola Fletcher, said that she has not gotten over it because it ruined her life. A chance to get an education and a better job being a nurse. These people's lives were ruined, destroyed, and the state of Oklahoma doesn't even have the bare decency to give them what is owed. They don't have the decency to make things right. Let this just be a reminder, black folks, America will always let you down.
Yep.
Let me remind you that we
live in
Oh,
America.
this asshole again, but let me get a couple of scriptures here. Again, this is what you get. You know, we talked about this. You know, this is one of these scriptures here that you should know. You know, it says, "Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Most High, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin unto sin, that walk to go down into Egypt, and have not asked at my mouth to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh." It's the same thing going on. All right, no new thing under the sun. Remember? All right, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. All right, the more things change, the more they remain the same. Right? Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion. All right. He says, let me skip on down here because this is what they do. Let me just keep on reading. Now, verse 4. "For his princes were at Zoan, and his ambassadors came to Hans. They were all ashamed of a people that could not profit them, nor be any help nor profit, but a shame and also a reproach." That's how we're looked at. But they still continue to use us because Jake doesn't understand how they still make money hand over fist off of us. Alright? I guess the biggest one to point out is the criminal justice system. Alright, but there are many other ways. 6. "The burden of the beast of the south into the land of trouble and anguish, from whence came the young and old lion, the viper and the fiery flying serpent. They will carry their riches upon the shoulders of young asses, and their treasures upon the bunches of camels, to a people that shall not profit them." Here's my point. "For the Egyptians shall help in vain." All this shit they've done has been haphazard, alright, just to make it look good. And our people keep depending on these pieces of shit, these politicians, instead of what it's telling you is your problem right here. You're not looking to the Most High, alright, and to no purpose. "Therefore have I cried concerning this, their strength is to sit still." Salaki, that's Salaki. Alright, their strength is to sit still. Alright, these politicians ain't gonna do nothing. Let's get something else here. Let's go New Testament here. All the way down. Because this is what you gotta understand. These people that you think these politicians are the end all be all. Alright, for some reason. I don't know, you know. This is let's see. Let me see if they have let's see, let's go to one. Whoops. This is, I'm reading 19, but I'm giving you the to include the scripture I'm getting ready to read. It says, "And more fully describes the manners of those profane." Remember, profane here is talking about anything outside the temple, right? "And blasphemous seducers." And that's these politicians, alright? "Whereby they may be the better known and avoided." Alright? But what do our people do? They put all their trust in these pieces of shit. This is verse 19. It says, "While they promise them liberty," don't they? All these fancy speeches, you know, they go to school for this, how to really cast a spell. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. Alright. It says, "While they promise them liberty, they themselves are the servants of corruption." And they are. Someone came out with it. I wish I had a thought to bring it up. And they asked these people a question concerning and they asked the question, what do you think the crimes that I'm telling you these people committed, who would you most associate these crimes with? Someone in NBA, NFL? And there was a third option. And most everybody, oh man, immediately it was NBA, and if it why? Because most of them are Jake, right? But when they got through and they revealed the true answer, that it was your congressman. You know, domestic violence and robberies and a whole host of shit that I forgot now. All right, yeah, these are people they're supposed to be representing you. Let me read this again. Why they promise them liberty, meaning the people, they themselves are the servants of corruption, for of whom a man is overcome, of the same as he brought in bondage. This whole thing is a joke. Now here comes this.
We literally have opportunities here that people are dying for.
Van Ellis died at the age of 102 last year.
I don't think that we quite understand the severity of the fight against paying the debt that is owed. When I have this conversation, even with people like this guy right here, they just really don't get it, because they have tricked themselves into believing that if they pull themselves up by their bootstraps, that they will be able to be just fine. And when if they do everything that America tells them that they are supposed to do, that they will be just fine. Well, I'm going to share with you one woman who did just that. She created an entire fund called the Fearless Fund. A phenomenal sister. And this is what America did to her.
But before I play this, you women need to understand, where the fuck do you get off thinking that you can separate yourself from us and go on your merry happy way? You're in for a very rude awakening now. Here we go.
I didn't think that this was real, but once I realized that it was, I was aware that it was definitely an attack to dismantle and address our economic freedom as people of color. But I knew the moment it happened that we would continue to do the amazing work that we do.
You didn't think it was real? What did you think it was? What did you think?
When the emails came through, I honestly thought it was ChatGPT.
You did?
Yeah.
You thought maybe you were being punked?
Yes.
So now that you know that it is real, what's your response? What are you all planning to do?
Oh, our response is simple. We plan to continue to do the work that we do for women of color. As you stated before, women of color are the most founded entrepreneurial demographic.
But here, you know what? I'm gonna let it play. You just need to see this for yourself.
Least funded.
Look at this. Now she's talking to Kamala Harris. Kamala the Ugandan Giant. So her organization, her name is Arian Simone, fighting for us all, right? Fighting for African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic, Native Americans, Pacific Islanders. There's only one there besides us that should be there, and that's Native American. Alright, and Hispanics, I'm sorry. What are the fucking Asians and Pacific Islanders?
And we are up against a serious...
See, And after all this, again, this piece of shit is behind the scenes, and people like him. People just don't get it. Despite everything that is right in front of their face, all right. Despite all that's in front of their face, they choose.
Right now,
They choose not to see.
We are inaugural defendants of one of the most defining lawsuits of our time. Yes. and we are back in court this January. Win or lose, we are headed to the Supreme Court.
Watch the VP's expressions.
We were in court, the district court, we were in court in September. They appealed, so we're now in court, the 11th Circuit, which I know you're through the 5th and the 11th, the 11th Circuit in Florida, January 31st. So if we win that day, they're appealing to the Supreme Court. If we lose, we have to appeal to the Supreme Court. So that's where this case is going. Don't have a choice.
And it takes time to figure them out. There's the connections, right? Because, you know, one of the reasons I was so inspired by her and Thurgood and Charles Manson was they understood the power of the law to make real promise, right? And so we got to fight in the court, we got to fight on the street.
Yeah.
Right? But I know if you're working, I want to make sure that we follow up because access to capital has been one of my main areas of focus for minority-owned businesses.
Spoken like a politician.
JP Morgan and Google and some other equal opportunity council, right? And we've been putting out loans and access to capital for minority-owned businesses. One of the things also that our administration has been doing is we increased by 50% a pledge that we have for ourselves that will increase by 50% access to federal contracts for minority-owned businesses, which is a huge issue. And part of what I would like your help with as leaders in this whole space is to get the word out to minority-owned businesses that we.
But see, the trick is, when all this was set up, you know, affirmative action, all that, who benefited the most? It was the white woman. All right. Then the sweet ones, you know. It didn't benefit us like it should have. But that wasn't good enough for pieces of shit like this. Ed Blum. We want to roll it all back. Alright. What has America done? That's a good question to ask yourself. Alright.
Opportunities are available and exist. Because that's always been part of the problem, right?
As you saw in that clip, this dear sister Ariane Simone was trying to communicate to VP Kamala Harris what she was facing with the Fearless Fund and going to court being battled because she wants to fund black-owned women businesses, and the tone deafness of the VP and not understanding the significance of the impact that this lawsuit would have on black-owned businesses and even much more. It's because Kamala plays by the same rules that that man who is the grifter plays by, and that is the system of keeping colonialist
Sorry about that.
Powers in place so that we as a people, as a collective could stay down. But I'm going to show you a little bit more about Arian Simone, because this Fearless Fund is a major fight and it has major consequences.
You guys, I'm taking some time to talk to you all about this court case, because so many of my friends and people I work with, they're like, Erin, we don't think people understand the magnitude of what is going on. If you've been following me, you know that my company right now is companies, more than one, are being sued for alleged discrimination. And the people who are suing us are using this as a baseline case to try to remove anything that is race-based. So in this suit, we're basically being alleged for discrimination because we support a grant program that is for black women. In the event we were to lose, what is at stake is anything that is race-based. So when you think about race-based, there's race-based scholarships for college. HBCUs are at stake if we lose. I was just speaking at the National Black Caucus for State Legislators on a panel called Urgency for Equity and Reparations.
Yeah, because I'm guessing somewhere down the line they got rid of when she mentioned HBCUs, right? Because a lot of people had, and, you know, rightfully so, had suggested that, you know, fuck these, you know, so-called white schools, you know. You know, you got to think about the athletes, all the money that's made by them. So, if you would just say, fuck them, I'll just stick with HBCUs. Alright, so now your talent pool, alright, dries up, you know. So now if this goes down like she's talking about here, well, you know, you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to continue to go with them. That goes back to what I said earlier. You don't understand the ways in which they still make money off of us. Alright, they, again, as in the ancient days of ancient Pharaoh, ancient Egypt, they refused to let us go. Why? Because we were so profitable. Alright, same thing's happening here.
Reparations. And when we got done speaking, a lady stood up and said, I don't think you all understand. If the Fearless Fund were to lose, all this legislation you guys wrote about reparations, it doesn't even matter because it's race-based. I don't think you all understand. If the Fearless Fund were to lose, all this legislation you guys wrote about reparations, it doesn't even matter because it's race-based. So anything that is race-based, set-aside programs, minority grant programs, so many things are at stake because right now if we win, we win. We are winning for everybody. But if we lose, then everybody's affected by our loss. Then everybody loses. So much is at stake, you guys, with this court case. I need you all to share.
And this is why we always say, actually the scriptures say, alright, and I just read several scriptures, you're putting your trust in the wrong, you know, in America, what the fuck? At the end of the day, this place is done. Alright? True reparations is what I'm about to read you. There's true reparations. Because you gotta understand, this wicked system, they still control all of this. Alright? This is true reparations. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Some reason he thinks he's going to get away with it. And this is the perfect. This is Isaiah 14:2. Alright, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. All right, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. All right. What does it say here? Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. In Revelation 13 and 10 at the end. This is the patience. This is what we got to look forward to. Revelation 2, 25, 26, and 27. That rod of iron. That's true reparations.
For this video, I need you to sound the alarm. The people who are suing us have billions of dollars to back their cause. We need billions of dollars to back our cause. Be sure to click the link above and donate to our foundation. It takes money for us to get the word out, to make sure that there is awareness, campaigns about what is taking place. It takes bandwidth, people, capacity. We need your voice. We need 3 P's. Pens for petition. We need prayers, of course, that should have been 1.
But to who?
And then we need paper. Be clear, this takes your voice, your pen, and your paper in order for everything to be a success.
See that proud so-called black woman. Proud. Now you're out there. Alright. Swinging in the wind. All by your lonesome. Alright, because your head just breathe. And the shit is falling apart now. Alright, now you want some.
For the Fearless Fund. Because a win for the Fearless Fund is a win for all.
Well, let's see if them Asians and Pacific Islanders and who were those others that she had up there, you know, we'll see if they'll chip in.
But a loss for the Fearless Fund is a loss for all. And we must win.
Unfortunately, by the time I found out about the Fearless Fund, it was already too late. And this is the result.
The Fearless Fund has been blocked from giving grants only to black women in what's considered a victory for DEI critics and a major blow to the black woman-owned venture capital firm. This lawsuit was filed by conservative activist Edward Bloom, whose group was...
Well, didn't I just... Well, this motherfucker here. But see, this is where so-called black woman thinking that she's something special. Alright, she went out there on her own. You know, that I don't need no man type of thing, because this is what we try to tell you jakes that have an idea what's really going on. Leave her be. She's going to get hers. The thing is, do you want to be around her? Because as this man, the so-called white man, this Edomite, as he's losing power, so will she. Did she decide to just step off and say F you?
Also behind court cases that led to the Supreme Court striking down affirmative action in college.
I'm just providing you the big picture here. I mean, if the one that you're with is doing right by you, hey, by all means. No, we're talking about, again, the big picture.
Admissions. Regarding the Fearless Fund, Bloom said, programs that exclude certain individuals because of their race are unjust and polarizing. Fearless Fund co-partners Arian Simone and
See how
Ayana
they're
Parsons
flipping
said they are
everything back
evaluating
around?
their options. Their attorney said today's decision is not the final outcome. It is a preliminary ruling without a full factual record. Alfonso David said this is also the first court decision in post-Civil War civil rights law that has halted private charitable support for any racial or ethnic group. Fearless Fund was founded by black women to back black women who received less than 1% of the $215 billion in venture capital funding last year.
Let's read that again.
Received less than 1% of the
Who received less than 1% of the $215 billion in venture capital. So, in order to try to rectify that less than 1%, not one, less than 1% of the 215 billion that everybody else got. But now they're trying to offset that with our own. Let's just call it that. The crime foul.
Received less than 1% of the $215 billion in venture capital funding last year, according to USA Today. Marion Simone was honored at Black Enterprises Disruptor Summit in May.
People are alleging that we are being discriminatory, and they are trying to make what we do day to day illegal. But do not worry, we will continue to be disruptors, we will continue to be disruptive, and we will continue to stand against this disruption.
Stay posted for the latest developments in this story at blackenterprise.com.
So when you hear clowns speak, understand that they were not assigned to educate. They were designed to entertain. Because at the end of the day, when people are saying things that they have no real understanding of, that's exactly what they are. They're clowns. And this clown right here that you see in front of you is speaking out of the side of his neck. And his showman right here that you see that is clapping, he's also speaking out of the side of his neck, because neither one of them seem to understand that there is a debt that is owed, and the powers that should not be, and the evil systems that are upheld because of them are stopping Yah's people from being able to receive what's owed to us. And because they're stopping it, and they've been having an opportunity to repent and they refuse to, all the more reason why the Most High Yahuwah is judging this nation. But I'm encouraged.
Say the whole name. You're not on, trust me, you're not on level to shorten the Most High's name. Alright?
Because regardless of what happens with this draconian Babylonian system, the louder that Judah cries, the more the sound will reverberate around the world.
Okay, let me ask you a question, Mr. President, on behalf of all of our viewers who would be covered by this. Why should somebody who maybe had an ancestor 7 or 8 generations ago, long before they were a twinkle in their great-great-great-great-grandparents' eye, why should they have to pay now for what an ancient ancestor did? Or why should they apologize for what an ancestor did centuries ago? Why do they still carry that burden?
Oh, it's not a burden at all. You are one of the beneficiaries of that slave trade. Yeah! So this is not a burden. You should be concerned, and you should pay, because you today are still benefiting from the greatest indignity to a human being, and that is the slave trade. And not only did you benefit during the slave trade and your country developed, but look at what it caused the developing world. During slavery, resources was used to build your country, build up your capacity. You were able to then become competitive. You were able to invest in mechanization, and developing countries like ours were left behind. So you should be very concerned, because you are a prime beneficiary of the exploits of slavery.
So put a figure on it, please, because it always comes down to the bottom line. How much should an individual taxpayer in a country like the UK be signing a check to a country like yours, Ghana?
Well, it's easy to calculate. You can use the time value of money. You can look at the period of slavery and the contribution not the contribution, the extraction of wealth from countries like ours, and how it was utilized to build your society, build your country, create wealth in your country, and then add the time value of money, and you will get the value. There's a lot of research paper on this. A lot of universities would have done paper on this. There's enough literature to tell us what that value is. But I want to say that it is not only the value, it is a loss of time. It is a loss of competitiveness. It is a loss of human dignity. It is a loss of our education system. It is the culture that we lost. It is all of this indignity that surrounded slavery that we must consider.
But the Jews did not. They received full reparatory justice to this day. Do not compare us. We have not received £1 note
reparations. We have not received any land reparations. We have not...
You know what? Some idiot said, and I believe his name was the one that got thrown off the air. He was when they had a whole lot of them get, what is his name? Shit in the middle. Let's see. Oh man, I can't believe it. I forgot his name. He's from Indiana. God dang it. Must be on NPR and all that. Tavis Smiley. What was the one that used to... All these people got because they were accused of sexual misconduct or some other shit. Harassment. There was a whole lot of them got thrown off the air. What's his name? Not Scarborough. Damn it. Oh man. But he had a caller that called in, and they were going back and forth, and the guy brought up this issue of, you know, about what's being old, and he said, well, we gave him welfare. We gave him welfare. There's you know, some dumb shit like that when they are the majority. You see, it's the whole thing. You expect a wicked and deceitful man, first of all. You know, they are the wicked. You expect to get some kind of justice for this? Now I'm looking at you all side-eyed, you know. I can't, maybe I'll think of his name. I mean, it's not really that important. But anyway, let's continue on.
Received any intention of reparations. Don't compare us. Don't talk about the Nazis being bad people, because Germany has paid full reparatory justice to Jewish people. England can't say nothing. Uncle Sam can't say nothing. Shut your mouth. Because you're still killing us to this day. You're still in our homelands based on how you underdeveloped our nations. You created through the Balfour Agreement an artificial state called Israel, which is only 80 years old. You gave and created a race. You gave and created a race. You gave and created a race called Jewish people for the purposes of delivering reparatory justice, because you can't deliver it to a name or a crayon color. You can only deliver it to a nation. So you had to create it in order to pay it. But understand what they had already. They had the Bank of England, and Britain required it to go to war. You see, the best loan you can get as an individual is a mortgage, right? The best loan a bank can give to a country is a war. Otherwise, there will be no need for a proxy war utilizing the Ukraine for the US.
Beautiful.
I don't think I could have said it better myself. But what do you think? Do me a favor and drop a comment below and let me know exactly what you think concerning this issue of reparations, reparative justice, and when it comes to the issue of racial...
Yeah, because, well, who was that? Professor Shlomo Sands over there in Israel, and that wasn't the name of his book, The Invention of the Jewish People, some shit like that. You know, and that's what they did, and they got paid off some bullshit, off of lies. Alright? In the meantime, the people who funded the transatlantic slave trade, these same people, Slocky, they continue to suffer. Alright? And this is done out of spite by them. Because they've always known who we are. And they know who they're not. Alright? Hey, read Ezekiel 36 chapter. Alright? Straight up robbery, thievery. But that's alright, it's all coming to an end. They know this. Alright? So, yeah. I'll just show this piece of shit one more time. This is Ed Blanc. Alright? Piece of shit. So this is what they're doing. Rolling back all this. And they're good at using other ethnic groups to do it. So, you know, as proxies, we need to get the fuck up out of here, because you know, despite all these, like, you know, this fund that was set up for, you know, specifically for women of color, as she put it, you know, hey, all right, you know, but again, the video is They Not Like Us: Reparations, Reparative Justice, and Racial Wealth Gap. All right, good video, well put together, I must say. Bravo, bravo, bravo. It's going to be strange that I do this at the end, but I forgot to do it at the beginning. Just a copyright disclaimer. All right. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Alright, so that's going to do it for this video again. Yeah, they make, you know, it's always somebody else's fault. They can never accept responsibility for what they've done to us and the effects that it has had generation after generation. That's why I must do this before I go off, before I end this, because this is what happened. This goes beyond your which you can see that Jake at the beginning, and later on she brought him back up, you know, that's was clapping and agreeing with that sweet one. This is him. Colonial mentality. Colonial mentality refers to a form of internalized oppression that occurs when individuals from colonized or marginalized communities adopt the beliefs, attitudes, and values of their colonizers, often leading to feelings of inferiority, self-doubt, and a lack of confidence. This phenomenon is deeply rooted in the history of colonialism, where colonizers imposed their culture, language, and values on the colonized, often through coercion, violence, and manipulation. Origins and effects. Colonial mentality, see, this goes beyond your, you know, we just usually throw Stockholm Syndrome out there, but that's a relatively new, I believe, 73, when that was first coined. It says colonial mentality can be traced back to the long history of colonialism, which has left a lasting impact on the psyche of colonized communities. The effects of colonial mentality can be seen in various aspects of life, including internalized oppression. Colonized individuals may internalize the negative stereotypes and beliefs imposed by the colonizers, leading to feelings of shame, guilt, and self-doubt. Cultural erasure. Power dynamics. Colonial mentality can perpetuate power imbalances where colonized individuals may feel powerless and marginalized, while colonizers, maintain control and dominance. Mental health. Colonial mentality can contribute to mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, and trauma as individuals struggle to reconcile their cultural identity with the dominant culture. Us. Jeremiah 17:4. Everything was beaten out of us. Remember up earlier it says through violence, right? And manipulation. How so? The scriptures. Yeah. Again, scripture. This is prophecy. Revelation 20th chapter. Examples and case studies. Filipino, Maori, and New Zealand. Alright. You know, they left us out for whatever reason, but I think you get the idea. So with that, I hope whoever views this, of course, is edified. And once again, I'd like to point out the importance of fasting and prayer. Alright, so this has been Naaman with the DC Cap. Alright. Hey, until the next video, Shalom. Alright.